When I read today, once again, that this federal government, after rebuilding Ukraine, after giving incredibly high contributions to the European Union, now also wants to start rebuilding Gaza, you can only shake your head. Are you actually not aware of what's going on in Germany right now? Not a week goes by without reports of major German companies going bankrupt. Not a week goes by without more and more people no longer knowing how they're supposed to make ends meet. And you're wearing your generous pants and freely handing out German taxpayers' money all over the world.
On Monday evening, I met with the families of the hostages in Tel Aviv. Some of them had to witness firsthand how the terrorists dragged their relatives out of apartments and shelters, forcing them onto the beds of trucks or motorcycles. The people I met on Monday have fought like lions for their loved ones over the past 2 years. They have worried, hoped, and at times despaired. Some of them, after arduous negotiations, have been able to embrace their loved ones again. But there were far too few of them. Others have received only the sad certainty that they can no longer hope for a reunion, but only for the return of the bodies and a dignified burial. Therefore, dear colleagues, criticism, lack of understanding, perhaps even outrage at this government policy, let me be clear, are legitimate. But criticism of a particular Israeli government must not automatically be criticism of the State of Israel, and certainly not criticism of all Jews. Especially in Germany, we have a responsibility and will always have a historical responsibility to make that distinction, to feel and uphold the responsibility for the safety of Jews in our country, for the existence and security of the State of Israel, regardless of the policies of any particular Israeli government. And to make it clear again and again, we stand firmly and unwaveringly at Israel's side and with its people. October 7th, 2023 was an act of unimaginable barbarity that must affect us all deeply. This barbarity must never prevail. And in doing so, we do not overlook the suffering of the people in Gaza, their right to life, to self-determination, protection, and dignity. Dear colleagues, on my trip this week, in my numerous conversations in Kuwait, Qatar, Israel, and Egypt, I sensed one thing very clearly. After these 2 years, we now find ourselves at a decisive moment. The mood has fundamentally changed. There is hope for the first time, hope again, among the families of the hostages, but also in Israeli society, in Gaza, in the Arab states, in the region. Hope that the hostages will return home, that the dying in the Gaza Strip will end. For a ceasefire, for a massive increase in humanitarian aid, for a
future the Germans were talked about. And that's why I say very clearly, it's good that Donald Trump has presented this plan. He deserves our full support. And yet I say just as clearly, I do not agree with the performance of this federal government. The third largest economy in the world, helpless when its own citizens are kidnapped. Hands folded in their laps, no action. Instead, there are completely helpless debates, not about freeing our fellow citizens, but about recognizing Palestine or debates about an arms embargo against Israel. That's when the Chancellor's mask slipped. No weapons to conflict zones, that is a traditional principle of German foreign policy. And I say this very clearly as well, it is the right principle. But that is not Chancellor Merz's principle. He doesn't say no weapons to conflict zones. He says no weapons out of fear of angering a growing Islamic population in Germany. Mr. Merz has allowed his foreign policy, and I say this with absolute clarity, just think of the mass demonstrations here in Berlin and elsewhere, to be dictated by an Islamist mob on our streets. And I find that unforgivable. No wonder that an American president is currently doing more for our interests than Friedrich Merz. When I read today, once again, that this federal government, after rebuilding Ukraine, after giving incredibly high contributions to the European Union, now also wants to start rebuilding Gaza, you can only shake your head. Are you actually not aware of what's going on in Germany right now? Not a week goes by without reports of major German companies going bankrupt. Not a week goes by without more and more people no longer knowing how they're supposed to make ends meet. And you're wearing your generous pants and freely handing out German taxpayers' money all over the world.
All federal governments have repeatedly criticized the illegal settlement construction, and it was good that they did so. But no injustice of the occupation can justify, explain, or relativize the brutal terror of October 7th. Justify, explain, or relativize it? No one. And the same applies the other way around. If now the brutal warfare in Gaza is justified by October 7th, if October 7th is used as justification, then we must also say, no, this terrible war in Gaza is not self-defense. Nothing can justify the war crimes in Gaza, not even October 7th. And hostages have not been freed this way either. We, the left, say very clearly, human rights are indivisible for everyone in Israel as well as in Palestine. Every life counts. Right now, the focus on Cairo is the most important goal. The immediate release of all hostages and an immediate end to the killing in Gaza. These are the two central objectives. Right now in Cairo, the Arab states are putting pressure on Hamas, and that's a good thing in order to achieve peace. But we are also calling on the German government to put pressure on Israel to achieve peace. And Mr. Wadephul, it's not enough to just talk about the day after now. You also have to talk about the day before. But there will only be peace if there is also pressure on Israel, because at the moment, the right-wing extremists in the Israeli government are not ready for peace.